Virgin is truly our mother in a literal sense. And the cost of her motherhood was the crucifixion. As Pope Pius XI points out, that the crucifixion itself would not have taken place had not the Blessed Virgin given her free consent. And just as Abraham was asked for the free consent to sacrifice his son Isaac, so the Blessed Virgin was asked for her free consent before the crucifixion took place. In Abraham's case, God did not ask him to carry out the sacrifice. But in the Blessed Virgin's case, the sacrifice was asked for and completed. But it would not have taken place, not only because the Blessed Virgin gave her free consent at the Annunciation, knowing full well that her son would be the suffering servant, but she renewed her consent, and without which it would not have taken place, the crucifixion. And so when our Lord speaks about the ingratitude of men, it is a real ingratitude that when we do not recognize, and that we do not thank, and that we do not act as true sons and daughters of the Blessed Virgin, it is truly ingratitude, and it's very painful to her. That her heart, being immaculate and being so sensitive, being the most sensitive except for the Sacred Heart, then therefore her heart loves us most. And so when we offend her, the offense is more deep and more offensive to her. And so Jesus comes to ask us to have compassion on her heart. And her heart is covered with thorns. And those thorns are there by the ingratitude of men, as well as by their blasphemies. And he asks us to give her consolation by making acts of reparation. And so this is one of the two main ways to bring about world peace, to bring about the salvation of souls, and to bring about the establishment of devotion to the Immaculate Heart in the world. Lucy told her confessor and told her Mother Superior. Now her Mother Superior said, I can do nothing, and her confessor said, it's not clear enough to me, I need the message, I need the apparition repeated. Around this time, Lucy was, as a novice, she had the lowest jobs to do, so she was in the courtyard, sweeping out the courtyard, when one day a boy came in off the street. I've been up to Pontevedra a number of times, and there's a door going to the street from the yard in the back of the convent. And this boy came in, and Lucy saw him. He was about 10 years old, and she said to him, do you know the Hail Mary? And he said, yes, I do. He said, well, please say it for me. But he wouldn't say it. But if she said it, he would say it with her. But without her saying it, he would not say it. So she had to go about her work, and she knew her mission was to be an apostle of the Immaculate Heart. So she said to this boy, she said, do you know where the Church of St. Mary Major is? That's about 5 minutes walk away from the convent. It's up on the hill, the highest point of Pontevedra. And he said, yes, I know where it is. He said, well, you go there and ask the Blessed Virgin to put Jesus into your heart. So off the boy went out the street and walked in the direction of the Basilica of St. Mary Major. And so some time later, on February the 15th, Lucy was putting up the garbage, as she describes it. And the same boy appeared to show up at the door of the, walking from the street in the back corridor. So here's how she writes about this February 15th apparition. It's very instructive. So on February 15th, coming back as usual to empty the garbage can outside the garden, I found a child there who seemed to be the same one as before, and I asked him, did you ask the Heavenly Mother for the child Jesus? The child turned to me and said, and you, have you revealed to the world what the Heavenly Mother asked you? And having said that, he turned into a resplendent child. Then recognizing that it was Jesus, I said to him, my Jesus, you know what my confessor said to me in the letter I read to you. He said that this vision had to be repeated, that there had to be facts permitting us to believe it, that the Mother Superior alone could not spread this devotion. So Jesus replied, it is true that the Mother Superior alone can do nothing. But with my grace, she can do everything. It is enough that your confessor gives you permission, and that your Superior announces this for it to be believed by the people, even if they do not know whom it was revealed to. But the confessor said in his letter that this devotion already exists in the world, because many souls receive you every first Saturday of the month in honor of Our Lady and recite the 15 mysteries of the Rosary. It is true, my daughter, that many souls begin, but few persevere to the very end. And those who persevere do it to receive the graces promised. The souls who make the 5 first Saturdays with fervor to make reparation to the heart of your Heavenly Mother please me more than those who make 15 but are lukewarm and indifferent. My Jesus, many souls find it difficult to confess on Saturday, but you allow confession within 8 days to be valid. Yes, it can even be made later on, provided that the souls are in the state of grace when they receive me on the first Saturday, and that they have the intention of making reparation to the Immaculate Heart of Mary. My Jesus, and those who forget to form this intention, they can form it at the next confession, taking advantage of the first opportunity to go to confession. Right after that, he disappeared without me finding out any more about heaven's desires up to the present. This little booklet, which we printed over 1 million copies of, is perhaps the best booklet on the 5 first Saturdays in one short space. It's translated also into Portuguese and into Spanish, and it's written by Frère Michel. It was originally printed in French. Frère Michel de la Sainte Trinité. There's so much in here, but this gives you the idea of the request for the 5 first Saturdays. There's a book we published on the Divine Impatience. You just think about it. It was 2 months and 5 days from the time our Lord first appeared to the time he came back to rebuke Lucy for doing nothing. 2 months and 5 days. We find the same pattern, our Lord rebuking our Sister Lucy and the Pope and the bishops 2 years and 2 months after the request for the consecration of Russia. I'm getting ahead of myself. But one more question is raised: why 5 first Saturdays, and why not 9 or 7 for the 7 sorrows, or 9 like the 9 first Fridays? Well, our Lord answered that question. Sister Lucy's confessor asked her, his name was Father Gonzalez, he was a Jesuit father, and he asked her why there were 5 first Saturdays and not 9 or 7. That same evening, Sister Lucy implored our Lord to inspire her with an answer. A few days later she wrote a letter to her confessor, and here's what she wrote. When I was in chapel with our Lord part of the night of May 29th, 30th, 1930, and I spoke to our Lord about questions 4 and 5, that is, why the 5 first Saturdays, I suddenly felt myself more intimately possessed by the divine presence. And if I'm not mistaken, this is what was revealed to me. Jesus spoke and said, my daughter, the reason is simple. There are 5 types of offenses and blasphemies committed against the Immaculate Heart of Mary. Blasphemies against the Immaculate Conception, blasphemies against her perpetual virginity, blasphemies against her divine maternity, and refusing at the same time to recognize her as the mother of men. Blasphemies are those who publicly seek to sow in the hearts of children indifference or scorn, or even hatred of this Immaculate Mother. And the 5th one, the offenses of those who outrage her directly in her holy images. Here, my daughter, is the reason why the Immaculate Heart of Mary inspired me to ask for this little act of reparation. So there are 5 sins, 5 major sins against the Immaculate Heart of Mary, and our Lord wants the 5 first Saturdays in reparation for those 5 major sins.